City to Stop the Cuts, part of a broader citywide coalition that is come together to try to put up a fight to some of these cuts that Ford and City Hall have planned. So we're going to be going for a little bit of a march around the neighborhood today to look at some of the services that are under threat. We're also going to be having a big wide mass meeting on September 10th. That's going to be pretty awesome. It's going to be in Dufferin Grove Park. We hope that everyone here can come out. We're going to be coming up with a list of demands for City Hall, and we're going to be sort of coming together to talk about how we can actually work together to fight these cuts. Because if we don't stand up and fight for these services, they're going to roll right over us. So we're not going to take this lying down. This is a first step, but we really want everyone here to come out on September 10th. It's going to be at Dufferin Grove Park, and it's going to be at 12 o'clock.
Well, Rob Ford is a little guy. He's just a little rich guy. And we're going to deal with him.
And Doug Ford.
And his brother. And his brother. The reason we're going to do that is this place has a long tradition of fighting. This area has a long tradition of fighting. Jake Anharu has done research, and it goes back to the 1930s and before. In the 1930s, the place we were just at, in Allen Gardens, homeless people held that territory and fought from that territory for the rights that we enjoy today. Just north of here, just across the street from Allen Gardens, they were going to mow down all this housing and a long time ago. But people went when the cats came, people laid in front of them, and they stopped it. And housing was built, all of this housing was built all the way south from Carleton in the early 1970s. This house here was built in Project 3000 when people fought for housing. Singles won the right for subsidies here on this corner across Ontario. So now they think they're going to come for us again. Sometimes we sit back a little bit, we get a little tired. But we don't have enough time. There's not enough time, like Lisa said, not enough time. We can't be tired anymore. Mamalini says we're going to cut you all back, and after that, maybe we'll all be homeless. And then he says, Mamalini, yeah, he's a real nice guy, Mamalini, real smart boy. He says we need to remove them, and we need to do it forcefully. I don't think we think so. I don't think so. We don't think so. Let's take it back. Let's take it back and take the things we need.
Of Regent Park. We're going to be stopping there briefly, then going north towards Gerrard where Parliament Library is, and having a finale at Pigeon Park there at the corner of Gerrard and Parliament, right across from the library. So let's continue along our walking tour. Let's go over to Regent Park and up towards our library. My name is Lisa. I'm with the Downtown East Stop the Cuts Committee. I'm also with the Ontario Coalition Against Poverty. We want to really welcome everybody to this park here today. This neighborhood, a very important part of the struggle against the proposed cuts from Mayor Rob Ford. One of the poorest communities, one of the poorest urban centers in all of Canada is here in the Downtown East. So we know that this is going to be one of the neighborhoods that's going to be hit the hardest by these cuts that Ford is proposing to make at the end of September. And this is coming down really, really fast. We're talking about the end of September, September 26th and 27th. or when these proposals for $800 million worth of cuts are going to City Council. We have less than a month to organize this. We have less than a month to work as hard as we can to build the kind of movement that can stop these cuts. So this is part of that, and we want to thank everyone for coming out here today. We're going to have a couple speakers. People are going to be representing different community groups, different unions who are part of this struggle. And then we're going to be doing a tour, a walking tour, a march of this neighborhood, going by the different city services that are potentially under threat. So just to talk about some of those city services and where we're going to be going, one of the first stops we want to make is at the shelter services on George Street. We're talking about city-run Seton House, city-run Schoolhouse. Shelters that are potentially under Ford's agenda in the long term could be under threat. So we want to go by those places, say that these are spaces we want to defend. Not only do we want to defend them, we want to expand them. Then we're going to be going along Dundas, going towards Dundas and Sherbourne, infamous corner, a lot of really essential services at that corner, drop-ins, a lot of TCHC buildings along Sherbourne. And we're gonna mark those places, we're gonna talk about them there, we're gonna defend them. And then we're gonna be going even further towards Parliament and up Parliament, towards our libraries and defending our local Parliament library. And then up towards the community center, Wellesley Community Center, one of the former priority funding community centers that was already cut under Ford, where there's no longer priority funding in that community center. So a quick neighborhood tour. Very important that we're doing that, going by some of these essential services. We're going to hear from some of those people who work in those services or use those services here today at the park before we take off. And when we go by some of those services, we're going to be putting up these markers, Toronto Stop the Cuts, to say these are city services. We're going to tape them up on those buildings or close by to say these are city services we want to fight for, we want to defend. This community is behind these city services. We absolutely are going to defend them. Does that sound good to everybody as a plan? So first I wanted to invite up Angela Connors. She's the VP from CUPE Local 4308, Canadian Union of Public Employees, Ontario. She's a worker in this area. I'll let her introduce herself. Please welcome Angela.
Everybody, and welcome here. As mentioned, my name is Angela Connors, Vice President of CUPE 4308. I work right around the corner here and one of the community agencies, and our members work in various community agencies in the neighborhood. They provide daycare, they provide health care, they provide home care, they run programs for children, youth, and seniors. They provide services to prisoners, they provide services to the homeless, they provide housing and family support. Our members are doing this work because they know the value and they have the belief in fostering healthy and caring communities. And we value public services, and we know the importance of keeping public sector workers in the job to provide those public services. We live in a city of roughly 2.5 million people, and we have a mayor who wants to cut services and cut jobs. Absolutely shame. He talks about efficiency, he talks about gravy, but I have a question to ask Mayor Ford. Has he done the math? I'm not talking about calculus or algebra, I'm talking about basic math. Math that takes a population of 2.5 million and adds to that the cost of living in one of the largest cities in North America. And what you end up with is a need for more publicly funded programs and services. That seems simple enough to me. Unfortunately, if you take the same factors and you cut jobs and then you cut services, you're left with less workers, less childcare, less affordable housing, less support for those vulnerable community members that need it the most. Having good jobs and good wages is what the city should strive for. It's what we need to do more to make it happen. But instead, Ford is in a race to the bottom. He's attacking jobs. He's attacking needed public services in a race to the bottom that no one's going to win except for the wealthy and the privileged. If you're wealthy and you can afford a nanny, you don't care if there's not enough daycare spaces. We need more daycare spaces. I read on the city website that the Mayor Ford claims to be a believer in building better communities through community action. Well, as you can see here today, people are willing to get together, to come together, to do that community action, to protect programs and services that they believe are vital to the city and that we all deserve. And unlike Mayor Ford, we can do the math. Thank you very much.
Services, we're also defending those workers who give those services every single day. And a part of that, one of the things that we know has been in the news a lot is the libraries, our public libraries in this city. Something that people in this neighborhood really value, going to the libraries to use the services, also to use it as a cooling center in the kind of summer that we've had this summer. So really important to welcome today. I want to invite up President of the Library Workers Local 4948, Maureen O'Reilly. Please help me welcome Maureen.
This is not my usual park outfit, but we had a press conference this morning with Margaret Atwood, so here we are. Thank you very much for your invitation today. Libraries are a very important service in the city, as so many of the other services that are under threat of cuts. We have two libraries in this neighborhood, St. Jamestown and Parliament Street, and we are certainly working very, very hard to prevent library closures. The Ford administration has said they want to cut libraries, they want to reduce hours, and they want to cut programs. And we are working very, very hard to keep access to the public libraries open for all the reasons that the 18 million Torontonians visited public libraries last year. So I think your tour tonight is just terrific. And again, thank you so much for letting us be part of it. And I just want to say the press conference this morning was to announce our contest. So anybody in the city who wants to join our contest and participate, please go to ourpubliclibrary.to. There's a contest for kids and there's a contest for adults, and you get to win a lunch with one of the authors. So in the midst of this doom and gloom agenda by Mayor Ford, sit back and have a little fun and join in the contest. Thank you very much.
Worker at Sherborne and Dundas and Parliament and Dundas. I work with communities that have been hard hit by the epidemics of HIV and hepatitis C. We just took a tour through George Street, a community that also needs support, where we've seen a possible cut to the shelters, a loss of beds, a possible cut to the wet shelter, a harm reduction program that we actually need throughout the city, not just here at Sherborne and Dundas. I'm here to talk about the community partner and investment programs, which fund 42 AIDS prevention programs, 38 community drug prevention programs, and 685 student nutrition programs. These grants are a sound investment in the lives of residents in Toronto. And without these grants, we will only see the fanning of the flames of the epidemics of HIV and hepatitis C. Hepatitis C is 30% higher in the homeless population than it is in the general population. 70% of new infections are related to injection drug use. Needle exchange programs are an effective way to stop the transmission of hepatitis C and HIV. They've been proven effective. Our HIV rates in Toronto are actually some of the lowest amongst injection drug users because of the hard work that needle exchanges have done in the city and access that people have had all over the city. For every HIV transmission averted, we save $150,000 in the healthcare system. Every year, $1 billion is spent supporting people living with hepatitis C. These programs cost pennies. They cost a marginal amount. There are 17,000 people living with HIV in our community who need these grants. We need to stop these cuts. We need to keep these grants. We cannot afford to lose them. On October 26, 2010, City Council was the first city to sign the Vienna Declaration. It was a document that highlighted the failure of the global drug war. It was the first municipality to join the list of academics, politicians, law enforcement, and health leaders. By signing this declaration, Toronto City Council demonstrated its commitment to evidence-based policy. The Toronto City Council drug strategy follows a 4 pillars approach, and people here are working really hard to make sure the drug strategy continues to work. We need more harm reduction programs. We need more investments in this community. We do not need to lose them. We need safe consumption sites. We need so much more. We do not need these cuts. This budget is a crisis that they've created so that they can cut services to poor people, so they can cut services to public services, so they can cut services to social services, but it's a wake-up call for the rest of the country. Because what's happening here in Toronto is going to happen in every city. And we need to fight them here, and we need to fight them all over this country.
Next, I'm going to invite up Darcy Higgins. Sorry, Darcy. Darcy's going to talk to us a little bit about food security and the environment under Rob Ford.
Not that good. Thank you. Good evening, everybody. So I'm with an organization called Food Forward, and talking about food security. And also today, I'm representing Sunday Harrison, who's from Green Thumbs Growing Kids. And they're an organization that serves 3,000 children and youth in this neighborhood. And what they do is bring fresh food and garden experience into the lives of children who lack food security, adequate green space, and care deeply about the environment. The city has been a source of funds for these programs, and they're ones that have been offered, but funds have been withdrawn consistently over the years. First from the public sector workers, and now from attacks on community organizations. These programs are offered through grants, and there's been this divide and conquer approach being used to pit communities against workers who serve those communities. And urban agricultural programs, the Riverdale Farm, trees, farmers markets, community gardens, and community animators, and the whole Toronto Environment Office is actually under threat by Rob Ford's cuts. So these programs all serve communities from Regent Park, Moss Park, all the way up to St. Jamestown, in which people really enjoy the programs. They value community gardens, which are growing at a big rate in this neighborhood, and people really appreciate and need healthy, good, affordable food. This is not about gravy, this is about real food. It's the right of all people to have good food in a healthy environment.
Hell yeah!
And let's all work together to save and expand these programs and envision a more equal and more just Toronto. Thank you.
So, we marched today through one of the neighbourhoods that is going to be the most brutally affected by what Rob Ford and his people are looking to do to this city. I want to say as well that this is a community and a neighbourhood that is no stranger to fighting back, to organising, to resisting, to taking them on. And I have no doubt that this neighbourhood will also be in the forefront of resistance to Rob Ford and everything he stands for in his hateful agenda. Today, we saw some of the ways in which Rob Ford interprets the word gravy. We were told that gravy was some nasty privilege that he was going to go after, and gravy, in fact, in Rob Ford's mind, turns out to be libraries like the one across the street. It turns out to be community centres like the Wellesley Community Centre up the road. It turns out to be vitally needed childcare centres and childcare spaces. The full viciousness of this man's agenda is beginning to manifest itself, and there is no question that the mood is changing. The initial belief that this man represented something positive in people's lives is rapidly coming undone. And a feeling of hatred for him and everything he stands for is taking root in this city and will grow stronger in the months ahead. coming down is very, very fast and very, very brutal. By the end of September, they look to have put together 3 years' worth of brutal cuts to vital social programs, enormous attacks on the workers who deliver those programs. They're looking to turn the clock back, to go back to a day when there weren't services for people. They go back to a day when unions had no power, when workers had no rights. That's the kind of future that they stand for. And I want to make very, very clear to people that in Stop the Cuts, we want to work with people in the broadest way possible. In OCAP, the organisation I represent, we want to work with people in the broadest way possible. But we also have to understand that we're not going to make this man change his course by making some kind of polite appeal to him and other city council members. We are going to have to engage in a process of social mobilisation. We're going to have to defy him. We're going to have to be prepared to take a stand. Because this isn't even like the days of Mike Harris. During the period of Mike Harris, he was looking to impose the neoliberal agenda on people and to accelerate it somewhat. Since 2008, all across this world, there has been a profound crisis within the system, and they are looking to solve it at our expense. And all Rob Ford is the ugly local manifestation of that international agenda that's being prepared and delivered and imposed on working people across this world. So here in Toronto, as when we took a stand against the G20, we are only taking a stand against the local variation of that inhuman agenda. The word austerity means shortened lives. It means vital services destroyed. It means people living lives without dignity, without hope. It means despair for communities. And there is only one way to turn that around, and that is the resistance that we can build in communities. September the 10th, there is going to be a mobilisation, a mass meeting in Dufferin Grove. We want people to come out from the downtown east in very big numbers. We want people from all across this city to come out in very big numbers, to rally together in that park and to make it really a gathering that people will remember for decades as a point in which communities stood up and decided they were going to take no more shit from people like Rob Ford. And then, when they hold their council meetings, there will be demonstrations. And those demonstrations are important. But again, if we are going to stop him, I want to make clear that people have to decide that they are going to defy, they are going to resist, they are going to fight back. Rob Ford is not going to stop because he finds out that the opinion polls go a bit sour and people don't like it. He's fronting an operation that is driven by Bay Street, driven by Wall Street, driven by the corporations, and that requires a challenge of enormous proportions. So please, tonight, we began the process. We marched through the streets of this community, we marched through the streets of other communities, but let's understand that to stop this, we must fight as we have never fought before. We face the challenge of our lives. You have two choices that Rob Ford and people like him give you. You can lie down and let them kick you, or you can stand up and fight back. Let's stand up and fight back. Thank you very much.
The struggle of what we're fighting to defend is housing. And in Toronto, it's called Toronto Community Housing, and we know that it's not enough. We know that there's 76,000 people on the waiting list for Toronto Community Housing. That list is 10 years long. But what housing we have, we're defending it and we're demanding more. And I want to invite up an activist, a longtime community activist, Murphy Brown, TCH tenant, to talk to us a little bit about the importance of housing and Toronto Community Housing. Please welcome Murphy.
Thank you for inviting me to speak about the reality of living in Toronto Community Housing Corporation. I've lived in housing for many years. Working poor, people who are members of the working poor really cannot afford market rent and so are relegated, for want of a better word, to living in TCHC. And when I say relegated, It's because of the state of many of the buildings in which we live, disrepair and neglect, and also disrespect from staff in many cases, because apparently people who work for TCHC, many of them think that if you're poor, it means you're stupid, it means you're illiterate, and it means that they can treat you any way they would like to treat you. So, apart from the fact that the government is trying to sell off as many of the standalone housing as they can, and a few months ago there was a story in the newspaper about a woman who was promised that she could stay in her home, but suddenly she was being evicted, and I'm sure there are many, many more stories like that. Apparently the government, in its wisdom, think that poor people should not have the luxury, and that's in quotation mark, of living in standalone housing, that poor people should only live in apartment buildings, and those apartment buildings do not have to be kept in good repair. I am going to also mention, before I stop here, that this year the United Nations has declared the year for people of African descent. None of the levels of government have recognized this, and I think it's a shame. And whenever I speak to people, they don't know that the United Nations has declared this year the International Year for People of African Descent. So I am very glad to be able to have this opportunity to speak to everybody here, and if you did not know that before, you know it now. To speak here, and I also want to mention that there is, just like there is in Regent Park, where the housing has been leveled and new housing is being built, that the housing is not all for the people who lived there before. There are a lot of private housing, and poor people cannot get back into the space that they lived in for many, many years. Many people lived there their whole lives, and with the gentrification of Regent Park, I, who live in St. Jamestown, I am worried about eventual gentrification of St. Jamestown, because I definitely will not be able to afford market rent. Right now, there are plans to build 50-something stories, condominiums, which will be surrounding us in St. Jamestown. And for those who do not know, most of the people who live in St. Jamestown are poor people, whether working poor or on Ontario Works. We are people who live in poverty. And I think that that is the reason why we're being surrounded by all these buildings where rich people live. We lost the hospital several years ago, and I'm not sure what else we're going to lose in the short term. So we're all gathered here, and I hope that people are here because they are ready to fight, because they are ready, and I don't mean physical fighting, I mean coming out and protesting. And we need to make sure that that happens. So before I go, please help me with this chant. Poor people under attack, what do we do? Stand up, fight back. Poor people under attack, what do we do? Stand up, fight back. Poor people under attack, what do we do? Stand up, fight back. Thank you.
Next to speak, we're going to have Ricky Levesque.
Hi, my name is Ricky Levesque, and I work at the St. Michael's Hospital. I'm the support worker there for the Rotary Center. And 75% of our clients are homeless, and the rest come from within the community. And I just wanted to say that we are there for you. We have clothes, we have sandwiches, and we help you find shelters where the social workers find you really a place to stay, and we are very efficient on that part. And on a personal note, I just wanted to say it is hard to see people living in poverty like that, and I'm wishing this government that we have elected would find alternatives to divide the financial difficulties that they have within the community and with the rest of the country. It hurts to see somebody that we can't help. But anyway, but St. Michael's is always willing to help. There's a Rotary Center, there's an ER Center. If you have Ontario Works or anything just to help you get through that, whichever situation you are, we hope we can help you. But it's always hard. There's always too many of us. My name is Ricky Levesque, and I am the support worker for the St. Michael's Hospital for the Rotary Center, and we try and help every person that is in Ontario Coalition against poverty. You know, and if anyone is out there that is wishing to help us out there, get us off the street, then please help us. Thank you.
Thanks, Murphy. Okay, folks, so we're just about to get started with the march. We are going to be going down the path here. We're going to be turning on the street here, and then we're going to be heading down George Street. So before we do, we'll start. Maybe we'll have one more chant. Ford says, "Cut back." We say, "Fight back." Ford says, "Cut back." We say, "Fight back." Cut back. Fight back. Cut back. Fight back. Cut back. Fight back. Okay, all right. So what we want to do? Okay, it looks like people have already moved the banners over here. So scrap what I just said.